Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted it ended. It must be remembered that the Democrats are the radical ones on this position because they support abortion up to and even beyond the 9th month. The concept of having an abortion in the later months and even execution after birth, and that's exactly what it is. The baby is born, the baby is executed after birth, is unacceptable, and almost everyone agrees with that. My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state.
Happy lunch hour, gang. Okay, disclaimer right from the top. This video is going to be controversial. This video is going to be my opinion. Agree with it or not, that's up to you. If you want to disagree, I have no problem with you saying so in the comments. Just keep it polite, okay? You guys know the rules around here, all right? So this morning, Donald Trump put out his stand on abortion. And abortion is always a hot button issue in every election. The Democrats have nothing else to run on this year. I mean, certainly couldn't come up and say Joe's economy is good, or law and order is good, or my foreign policy is good, or, whatever. So they will go for the boogeyman that they always do. And the Republicans are trying to take your rights away in regards to abortion. Okay? Now, Trump came up and said that his opinion is the Supreme Court got this right, that the abortion issue should head back to the states to decide. I'm going to kind of agree with him, okay? Personally, I think there's a lot of things that need to go back to the states to decide, okay? Things like, education or, anything, okay? Anything that's not mentioned in the Constitution. And contrary to what the pro-choice people want, abortion is never mentioned in the Constitution. Therefore, it's not a federal issue. Okay. Now, giving you all of this, I don't completely agree with them, but that's my personal choice. Okay. In regards to the states having the rights to decide. Okay. Now, personally for me, the only time that I see abortion being a option, use that term, is in the case of rape or in the case of incest. Some people may disagree with me and say a life is a life is a life. No, I'm going to disagree, and this is my personal opinion. There's no reason that a woman who's been raped should have to carry a baby of her rapist and live with that for the rest of her life. If she wants to, that's her choice. In a case of incest, same thing. Should never have to do that, and go from there. The bullshit line that comes out all the time of in case the mother's life or the baby's life is in danger, that was destroyed years and years and years and years ago when we figured out how to do a cesarean section. Okay, so that one doesn't matter. But the reason I say this, and the reason this is going to be important, is I think Trump understands that the public doesn't need cradle-to-grave decisions made for them by the government. Do I support abortion? No, except for those two categories. Does it mean that I'm pro-life? Yeah. But at that point, you could also say I'm a little bit pro-choice, right? Because like I said, if you're raped, it's the woman's choice whether to have the baby or not. Okay. The other thing I'll throw in here is I still want to know where men's rights come in because it takes two to tango. And yeah, if the woman doesn't want the baby, the father should have some say in the matter. And I know this, the father doesn't have to carry the baby. Well, you want to play those games, you take those risks. Simple as that. But the reason I say all this gets important is because it's going to be very interesting. I mean, we already have medical tourism. We all have immigration tourism. Of course, we all know there's abortion tourism. You know, you're 13 years old and you want to have an abortion, come up to California and we'll do it. You know, you don't have to tell your parents. You want to exchange genders, come on to California, we'll do it. You don't have to tell your parents. Okay, there's a problem with that. Okay, that's criminal negligence, but states will have to figure that one out. But bottom line, it comes to this, is where I say I agree with him is because the people in each state should be able to decide by ballot measure how far they want to go. The decision should not be made by members of Congress. It should not be made by the Supreme Court. It should be made in a ballot from the people that says, okay, in our state, this is what we want to have happen. But again, just because it's legal doesn't mean you have to do it, right? We all understand that part. You know, and the counter argument, which is always idiotic, well, if it's illegal, we're going to do it anyway. Then you're a criminal, okay? And then you will face punishment. That's how it works. That's what having rule of law, being a civilized society is. If you are not following the rule of law, then you are not part of civilization. You are not a civil being. At that point, you are an animal. Okay? The other argument you hear all the time is, how can you be pro-life and pro-capital punishment at the same time? Guilty. Okay. I'm going to give you this one in a nutshell. Okay. Like I said, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-capital punishment. I believe in protecting the innocent and executing the guilty. Your typical liberal who's pro-choice and anti-capital punishment, please understand this, okay, is all for protecting the guilty and executing the innocent. That is not civilization either. That is not what a civilized society does. But that's what they portend to do. Okay. The reason I say Trump is right in his states' rights things, like I said before, education should be taught by the schools and should be decided by the individual states on what's important to teach. The colleges do that. I mean, I will give you this as an example. When I went to college in Texas, now maybe it's changed now, I don't know. But in Texas, in order to graduate college, okay, you had to have 4 semesters of government, 2 semesters of U.S. government, and 2 semesters of state government. Texas state government. Now, if you go live in Maryland, they really don't care that you have a Texas state government class, right? Texas requires it. Maryland doesn't. Well, maybe the schools, you know, your elementary schools, your middle schools, your high schools, maybe what should be taught should be decided on the states. Because how many times have we all said things like, what would be the concept of teaching a kid how to balance a checkbook, or how to calculate interest costs, or anything like that, as opposed to another state, let's say California again, who wants to teach the kids DEI, right? Or CRT, anything like this. Well, great. Then the kid from California who got his education with DEI and CRT wants to go apply for a school, you know, wants to go to University of Nebraska, I'll just pick one. And University of Nebraska looks at his curriculum and goes, kid doesn't know shit. We don't want him here. As opposed to the new math, new English, new Department of Education standards, which, gee, if you show up, you can graduate high school. Can you spell? No. Can you do basic math? No. Okay. Oh, but you're a high school grad. Cool. And because of DEI, we need to let you into Harvard. Right? This is the thing. It's going to be very interesting, but Trump's on the right path here by kicking back these issues to the states where it needs to come. All right? The federal government needs to concern themselves with what's written in the Constitution. That's it. Okay? What do we have? 29 states right now that allow concealed carry? Okay? That's a federal issue. That should be 50. The Second Amendment says we all have a right to bear arms. Shouldn't matter what the state says. That's a federal issue. Okay? But abortion, which is not mentioned in the Constitution at all, should be a state's issue. When we finally get politicians out of our lives and not making decisions that we should be making on a local, let's go further back, on a family issue, on a local issue, on a state issue, we'll be in a whole lot better shape. Until then, with the Chuck Schumers and Mitch McConnells and Nancy Pelosi's sticking their fingers where it doesn't belong, okay? God, imagine Nancy Pelosi going, well, I'm going to go have an abortion. Just think how you got to get there first. Okay, not enough to make you sick with any of the three of them. But they need to get their hands out of the lives of the American people. That's what we all should be pushing for. More people making the decisions, not, for all intents and purposes, unelected people. They say, well, I was elected. Sure, it was a crooked election, and I'm not just talking about 2020. Gee, we're not going to finance this person to run against you because we like them. Mitch McConnell dumping boatloads of Senate re-election funds in for Liz Cheney and nothing for Harriet Hageman, right? We all know how that one turned out. A lot of that happens, the support that they get. But pay attention to this. This was a lot bigger than the media is going to put it out to be. The media is going to go, oh, Trump's going after Roe versus Wade again. No, Trump's doing what the Constitution says, that the federal government is limited to these specific things. The rest of it is handled by the state government. But that's not good enough for the Democrats. They want control over everything, right?